Hello there, and welcome to another of Andre's Artist Profile. Well, like many of these, this is one that I've really been looking forward to doing since I started the artist profile itself. And the reason this is special to me is because this is an artist that I'm doing a tribute to because they died, I think, about 18 years ago. I think it was 1995 or 94, and that was Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa probably was one of the most prolific artists of the rock era, and next to James Brown, and it's probably pretty impossible to have all of his music or have interest in all of his music, even though, unlike James Brown, he's kept things consistently in print. So anyway, this is what I have for Frank Zappa. You'll notice a bias, more or less, toward the 70s and 80s time period. As a matter of fact, all I have by him is the 70s and 80s time period. My father's a Frank Zappa admirer too, and has more music from the 60s era, from the Mothers of Invention. And the first Frank Zappa CD I have, these are reissued from all different kinds of sources, but this is what I've got. This is Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, or the Mothers, or whatever they were called at the time. Apostrophe and Overnight Sensation from 1973, put together on a double album. There's the cover of Apostrophe, and here's the cover. Actually, that came out 73, and Overnight Sensation. This is when he had George Duke in the band. This is an original Ryko disc reissue from the late 80s. He put out a lot of stuff on Twofer. You can see the Discreet record label up there. Pretty much a straight reissue. I could have replaced these with individual CDs, but it's a nice twofer. I mean, the albums are presented backwards, but it doesn't matter. The music is just really, really good. This is the only, I believe, the only new, Zappa reissue I had. Just for all of you not in the know, in, I'm going to say 2010, all of the 1995 Zappa and Mother's music reissues, most of which are the ones you're going to see here, in the kind of greenish tint jewel cases, just suddenly went out of print, just like that, disappeared. And then within the last year or two, they just suddenly started trickling out on this Zappa Family Series label. I never quite knew why that was. I'll have to go look that up, but this is one of the newer reissues. Roxy and Elsewhere. Zappa Records on the back, see, it's the reissue. Pretty much a straight reissue of the CD. No bonus tracks or anything. Great album from the Apostrophe Overnight Sensation period. Great live record. Zappa made great live records because he didn't always just do repeats of the studio cuts. He did improvisations and guitar solos and all of that and different things. The next album that I have by them, the Mothers of Invention, is One Size Fits All, an intense fusion album, 1975. A lot of people think this is one of Zappa's greatest works, and I really can't disagree with them. Astrology. This album, only recently did I ever really come to like this. This is a very guitar-heavy rock and roll album called Zoot Allures that began the lineup of Terry Bozzio from the late 70s. A lot of people think this is the beginning of Zappa's decline, but actually there's some really good songs on it once I get into it. Really not as bad an album as I remembered it. Okay, I did get one other reissue, and this has been reissued before, I think in the late 90s, with kind of a moo cow on the cover, but I believe this is the original intended cover art. This is Frank Zappa's album Lather, which he made in 1978, but never released. Basically, versions of the songs, let's just say, came out on 3 separate albums in 1978 on his Barking Pumpkin label, and that was Studio Tan, Sleep Dirt, and Orchestral Favorites. They're not in the same order as they would be on that album on here, but this is what the album was originally intended to be. And I got this used because it's very expensive new. There's some pictures of Zappa inside and everything. This is actually one of my favorite Zappa albums. I just think the diversity of the music is just really fantastic. And, everything is kind of put together in a medley format. I think it was actually a live album or a live recorded album. Chic Your Booty from 1979. Another one of Zappa's clever parodies. Really great album. I highly recommend it for late 70s Zappa. The next album is another one from 1979, Joe's Garage, a concept album in 3 acts. This, of course, originally came out as 3 separate records. I think that's the cover to the second and third act. And anyway, this is an original Ryko reissue, the only other original Ryko reissue I have from the 80s. I'm going to get a slimline case for this because, you know, I have this thing about the big cases. They just take up space and they're not that environmentally friendly. Another great album. You know, again, very much a jazz kind of funk fusion feel on this album, which I like. Okay, here we go. Actually, this is another new Zappa reissue. I guess I have a lot more than I thought. You Are What You Is from 1981. Not that different from Joe's Garage or Shake Your Booty in sound. I haven't heard this in a while, but I remember really liking this album a lot. Frank Zappa and his Pastels. Tinseltown Rebellion. It's a live album from right around the time of You Are What You Is. Another 1995 reissue. Some of these jewel cases are broken. They've been battered around and you know, played a lot. The Man from Utopia from 1983. Stevie Vai is on this album. And this was during a period where Zappa was starting to get really involved with artist rights. And eventually he would end up going before the PMRC with Tipper Gore, and ended up turning that into an album called Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers of Prevention. But I don't have that one right now. The next Zappa album I have is Them or Us, a 1984 release, which features the reunion with the 70s era Mothers of Invention, at least on one cut. I just like that album. I mean, he did other stuff after this, but that's what I have for Zappa for now. So there's my Frank Zappa collection for the moment. No point in reviewing all that. I'm just going to put all these CDs on top of them so you can see. I'll clap off the top there. So this is a tribute to Frank Zappa, and all my best to Moon and Dweezil and Amit and their families. And, you know, see you next time.